Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was posted by a user named Leather, available in the marriage subreddit. The post is titled, "I ruined the end of my wedding night. Me and my wife had our wedding this past Saturday. We were legally married in December, but this was the celebration with friends and family. It was a pretty big event with 110 guests and many months of planning, as well as a lot of money spent. Leading up to our wedding, my wife and I fought a lot over communication about the wedding and her expectations. For some context, my wife has BPD and is in therapy again. This means she tends to have expectations, and when they are not met, she can spiral. It's hard for her to see things in a gray area. Instead, she tends to split things into black and white. I worked really hard leading up to the wedding and on the day of to make my wife happy. I spent a lot of money on things that she wanted. Whenever I had reservations about spending money, we would fight. In the end, I concluded that I make enough money and should spend it to make her happy. The morning of the wedding, her sister and I did all the work setting up the reception room and the ceremony. On the wedding night, everything went great until probably the last hour of the reception. I definitely had a decent amount to drink at that point and was having fun with friends and family. I ran to the bathroom, and as I left to return, I saw guests leaving, so I said goodbye and thank you. Apparently, during the time I was in the bathroom, my wife was looking for me for the last dance because we had a sparkler exit planned. She snapped at me when I returned because she couldn't find me for a period of time, and I snapped back. I probably yelled since I was not sober. She says people saw us fighting and that she's embarrassed. She also mentioned that it will show us fighting in our videography footage since we are getting the raw file. After we finished the reception, we had our sparkler exit, which looked great in the videos. We looked happy then, but after the reception, while cleaning up, we kept arguing. At this point, I felt quite underappreciated for all the work I did to make this day special for her. I felt that I made one mistake by leaving the reception room for a short time, and for that, I was being crucified. The situation was escalating. We continued to fight in our hotel room afterward. My wife eventually said that she couldn't talk to me because I was drunk and yelling at her. I tried my best to calm down and convince her to talk so we could be friends again and then go hang out with the guests who were staying at the hotel with us, all of whom were from my side of the wedding. She wouldn't drop her position or try to reconcile. Frustrated, I left the hotel room to see my friends. I ended up breaking down to my brother and friends about how the night went, how I felt like I tried to do everything right but then messed up once and ruined the night. Here's where I really regret things. While it's not great to be fighting on such an important day, it's a charged occasion, so conflict can happen. We are a higher conflict couple, so it's not unexpected for something like this to occur on a big day. I had left my phone in my hotel room and my wife texted my brother that she wanted to find me and pick me up. I didn't know this, but I was telling my brother that I wanted to go up to talk to her and repair the relationship. My brother felt that was not a good idea and told both me and my wife to sleep separately that night to calm down and talk the next morning. I ended up staying with my brother while she slept in the hotel room we had. The next morning, my wife and I fought more about the night before, how it ruined her vision of a wedding and how it would scar her forever that we had that as our wedding night. We ended up talking the entire day, and I empathized a lot with her after hearing more from her side. I could see how she felt embarrassed and how I was probably more heated than usual because of the alcohol. I'm sure there was also a buildup from the conflicts we had while planning the wedding. It broke my heart when I heard her say that she was alone all night and wanted me to come back to the hotel room. She was angry and upset with me, but she didn't want to be alone that night. While I had friends to be with for support, she was alone in the room. I have huge regrets about not going back upstairs when I felt it was the right thing to do and instead listening to my brother. I've been saying sorry to my wife ever since. She keeps saying it's okay, but she randomly cries and breaks down when she thinks about it. I try to remind her that no matter how the night ended, the rest of the day was still extremely joyous. We should put it all in perspective, but I know she will be bothered by this for a long time. Do you have any ideas on what I should do? User No Thanks said, therapy both individually and together. The fact that you admit you're both high conflict people is reason enough to enroll in therapy today. User No Association said, the wedding night alone is really traumatizing. Your brother shouldn't have made the decision he did. You keep saying you weren't that drunk, so you should have thought about this a little more carefully. Even with everything else that went wrong at the wedding, the above is probably the worst. You or your brother chose to disrespect your bride. I'm surprised she didn't annul your marriage. I knew a couple who was high conflict, but they didn't leave things unresolved overnight. You're in the wrong on this one. Apologize, apologize, apologize. Consider therapy to understand how to communicate effectively. To this, OP said, I don't blame my brother. I blame myself for not listening to my gut and going back to talk to her. Like you said, I should have thought about it more carefully, but I didn't in the moment and only realized it afterward when my wife and I talked. My brother didn't choose to disrespect her. He felt it was better for both of us to have cooler heads and less alcohol in me. I was drunk but still able to think clearly. I don't blame alcohol for not going up to fix things. I blame myself for thinking my brother knew better about how to handle my relationship. The truth is that there's no way to know if things would have been better if I had gone back to try to repair the situation or if it would have led to more conflict. I just know I should have tried instead of questioning whether trying was the right thing to do in that moment. That's on me, and it's the main thing I regret and cannot forgive myself for. I've apologized over and over again, but I wish I could do more. Unfortunately, there is some acceptance needed that I cannot change anything about the past anymore. This next post was made in the AITA subreddit by a throwaway account. The post is titled AITA for leaving my dad's birthday dinner after overhearing my sister's comments about my miscarriage. A few months ago, me and my sister Ava realized that we were both pregnant. She's been struggling with infertility, so we were all happy for her. I have an older son with my husband. Sadly, a couple of weeks ago, I lost my baby. We told my family and they were all supportive, but I sort of pulled away from them. They would have tried to avoid discussing Ava's baby around me, but I didn't want to overshadow her, especially since she's wanted this for a long time. I also didn't want to be reminded of my own loss whenever I saw her, so I haven't been to my parents' place for Sunday dinner since then or really spent time with Eva, which we had been doing a lot before. I replied vaguely to any messages about my absence. It wasn't the best communication on my part. Yesterday, my parents hosted a family dinner for my dad's birthday. I'd been thinking about going because I missed my family. While the pain of losing my child has not faded, I'm at a point where I can at least put it aside a little to be there for my sister and my new niece. So I let my family know that we would be coming. However, we had to get a gift for my dad, and then my son had a bit of a tantrum. So we arrived at my parents' place about an hour late. I wished my dad a happy birthday and then went to the kitchen where my mom, Eva, and my sisters-in-law were. Before I went in, I heard them say my name, so I stopped. My mom was saying something like, "Well, I guess OP isn't coming," and Ava said, "What did you expect?" She probably changed her mind and is just staying home again. Honestly, I'm sorry for her, but you would think she was the first woman to ever lose a child. And it's not even her first kid. They then kept talking about other things, but I just wanted to leave. I went and got my husband, who was with my brother, dad, and brothers in the living room. I told my dad I was really sorry, but that we needed to go. They all protested, but my husband could see how upset I was, so he didn't argue. We got our son and left. When we got home, I just cried for a while. My husband asked me what happened, and I told him. He was angry that Eva said that, but thought we shouldn't have abruptly left because my dad had been looking forward to seeing us and my son missed his cousins. After this, I felt conflicted. Later, my brother texted me saying that our dad had been really upset about us leaving and brought it up at dinner, which caused a whole fight because Mom and Eva realized that I must have heard them talking. My dad was mad about it. My brother said that it was pretty bad and wished I had just stayed so none of it would have happened. Obviously, Ava didn't mean for me to hear that. They were all just frustrated that I'd been absent for so long. Now I feel bad because I didn't mean to ruin dinner. Obviously, what Eva said was hurtful, but I can see how my actions might have led her to say something out of anger. I could have talked to her about it later instead of just leaving. Am I the asshole? Edit. My family is the type to drop by each other's places and see one another multiple times throughout the week, in addition to Sunday dinner. Lately, I've been kind of fielding off any requests for people to visit. I just want to emphasize how close my family is and how abnormal it is for me not to be seeing them regularly, even for a little bit. I haven't been ghosting them, I just text them saying I'm not feeling up to it for dinner and kind of leave it at that. My sister and my mom have always been closer to each other, just as I am with my dad. Additionally, my brothers are closer to her since they're all closer in age. I mentioned this in a comment, but we didn't text anyone to say we were going to be late since my family is usually pretty lax about time. Also, my son was continuing to be a handful all the way there, which kept us busy, and we kinda didn't think about notifying anyone. I've started looking into grief counseling now that I feel like I can at least talk about it. As far as she's told us, my sister hasn't had a miscarriage before. She just had trouble getting pregnant to begin with. From what my brother told me, my sister and mom didn't admit to saying anything. They just kind of looked at each other once my dad mentioned me leaving. He noticed and asked about it. Then one of my sisters-in-law, who was also in the kitchen, mentioned what they said, and my dad got mad. My other brother was also apparently angry with them, and it just turned into my mom and sister trying to defend themselves while my dad and other brother yelled, with my brother trying to stay out of it. User McFly Throwaway said, "Grief has no time limit. Recovery from a miscarriage is difficult because of the hormones, pain, and emotional suffering involved. The fact that your family thinks you need to just suck it up and get over it is ridiculous." So no, you weren't wrong for taking time to deal with your loss. It sounds like they are more focused on your sister finally getting pregnant and want you to do the same. It's as if they're saying, how dare you make your miscarriage about yourself? Don't you know your sister is pregnant? So your sister, who has struggled with infertility, finally gets pregnant and decides that a miscarriage is no big deal because it happens all the time and you already have a child. Your brother is upset because the family fight wouldn't have happened if you had just sucked it up and stayed. No consequences for your mom and sister. I'm sorry, but hell no. You are NTA. Ask your sister if she remembers what it was like not being able to get pregnant, and ask her to imagine what she would have done if she overheard you saying she's probably staying home again. You know she isn't the first woman to suffer infertility. She can always adopt if she wants a kid so badly. Yes, your sister likely dreaded being around pregnant women and babies because of her struggles, even if she wasn't vocal about it. But now that she is pregnant and the only pregnant sister, she thinks she can look down on you and judge you. Imagine if the roles were reversed. I bet your family would be having her over for dinner and asking you to stay home because you were pregnant and it was too hard for her. I'm sorry, but she is being selfish, and I wouldn't accept any apology she gives if she does apologize. Remember, she isn't sorry for what she said, she's sorry she got caught saying it. Your family is wrong for blaming you for being rightfully upset because your sister faced the consequences of voicing her thoughts out loud. User Bitchy Bitch said, "Your closest people should support you, not talk behind your back when you're not there. People grieve differently. They should have been happy that you are at a stage where you're ready to socialize. You are NTA in this situation. It's just a tough situation for your dad as he had no part in this and it was his birthday. Give him a call, meet up with him, and have an honest conversation. Don't ghost him or the rest of the people who didn't participate in the stupid gossip. Your mother and sister need to reflect on their thoughtless gossip. It doesn't matter whether it was your first child or not. Update. Hi everyone, I want to thank you all for the support and feedback on my last post. This update is mostly about a few different conversations that I had. I took your suggestions and called my dad, apologizing for leaving early. He completely understood. We talked a bit and he asked if we could go out to lunch this week because he missed seeing me, so we made plans. Then I talked to my husband and told him that I didn't think I could have stayed and still believed leaving was the best thing for us. He apologized for invalidating my feelings and said he would have liked for us to spend time with family, but not at the cost of my mental well-being. He offered to call my brother to set up a play date for our son with his kids so my son could see some of his cousins, which I appreciated. Later, my mom called and she apologized for taking so long to call, saying she felt ashamed and didn't know how to talk to me. She said she wouldn't have let Ava say that if they'd known I was there and that she didn't mean it. Eva has been hormonal and frustrated, and my mom thought calling her out at that point would have just made things worse. She felt terrible for hurting my feelings. I thanked her for the apology, but told her I needed more time before meeting her. After this, Ava texted me and I wanted to hear her out, so I called. She apologized a lot and emphasized that she didn't mean it and regretted saying it, attributing it to the same thing my mom had mentioned. Apparently, she and her husband also had a big fight about it when they got home, which delayed her talking to me. We had a long conversation in which she confessed that she had a few early miscarriages before they even told us she was pregnant. She felt she had to keep smiling through it, which made her slightly resentful of how I was handling my situation. I told her I was hurting and keeping my distance so she could enjoy her pregnancy. She felt bad for misunderstanding and thinking I was shutting everyone out. I assured her that this wasn't the case. I hadn't let anyone in, and with her being pregnant, it was tough for me. I wished her luck, but told her I hoped she could understand why I didn't think I could be there with her. She was sad, but agreed. We talked more, and by the end, things were better. I texted my family group chat with a long message about how I was feeling and why I would be taking space from meetups because I feel I need it after this. While the apologies eased my mind and I can see myself forgiving them in the future, I am still hurting and right now I think I need to spend time with my husband and son and handle my grief with a professional. Thank you all again for reading this, and I hope this answers your questions about what happened next. Hope you all have a fantastic day. This next post was made in the True Off My Chest subreddit by a user named Married to My BFF. The post is titled, I married my same gender BF even though we're both straight. My wife and best friend Annie is self-employed and works freelance, which has made it difficult for her to get steady health insurance in the past. 4 years ago, she had a health scare, and because I had somewhat decent insurance through my job, we said, forget it, and got married. Thankfully, the health scare turned out to be just that, a scare, and we're both healthy. 3 years ago, we said forget it again and decided to buy an apartment together. It's small and not in great shape, but there's no way we could afford anything on our own, so it's nothing to really complain about. We have separate rooms and still sort of casually date, but we talked it over and decided to commit to being married. We love each other, we live together, and we're happy, so does it really matter that we're not gay? We haven't decided if we want children yet, but we have agreed that if we do have them, we're having them together, not with a man. Everyone in our lives is really confused about our marriage, and I guess to some extent, so are we. But this seems like a don't fix what ain't broke situation. I don't know what it means to be platonically married. I know we're not gay, but we're also more than friends. I've honestly never been this happy in my entire life, and the love I have for this woman pales in comparison to how I felt about boyfriends in the past. And before the best pal jokes start pouring in, I have never been sexually aroused by a woman. I very much find men attractive. I guess this is just my PSA to all of you. You can live life however you want, and there's no universal formula for a good life. User Bald Dude Peak Skills said, there's nothing wrong with that. Many heterosexual couples reach that point in their relationship and stay married. I'm hardly asexual, but the older I get, the less important sex becomes. It's all about companionship, integrity, and agreeing on the same values rather than just sex. User Real Winner said, this is so amazing. Many people go through lifetimes without finding something like this. Enjoy it and pay no mind to the haters. I definitely say it's a special family configuration. I am a gay man and have 100% planned and considered this with my female best friend. In my case, my partner came along and then I changed my mind. I think that as long as you can be explicit about the expectations and assumptions you both are making about the future, this is really great. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video, and thank you also to partner of the channel, Gamersubs. Use code DLAM to support the channel and get 10% off of your purchase, link in the description. I'm sure many of you like me have a hankering for daily caffeine, so go check them out. Lately, I've been a big fan of Titty Milk and Acid Rain, but they've got dozens of other flavors for y'all to try out. Anyway, thanks again for reaching the end, and I hope you all have an amazing passage of the next 24 hours.